Hi, this is Martin with another video in my series looking at getting started with OpenInsight, and in this video we're going to be looking at working with menus. In previous lessons I've run up the Forms Designer using the Forms Designer button. This time I'm going to run it up using the User Interface Workspace. This is a tool that we will look at a later date, but for now I'm going to go to the Tools menu and I'm going to open up Design Form, which opens up the standard Forms Designer, and from there I can open up our patient entry window. If I just test run this window for the moment, anybody that's worked with Windows software will know that there are certain standards that make for an intuitive interface. So for instance, you have your title bar at the top with some buttons to minimize, maximize, close the window. Off the little graphic here there's normally a sub menu for closing and minimizing and the like. Under that you normally have your menu that gives you access to all of the functionality within your application, or the vast majority of it. Beneath that you normally have a button bar. Now I don't have that in this particular application, we'll be looking at adding one later. And at the bottom you normally have a status line with some user information or how the application's behaving at the moment, and again we'll get to that in a later lesson. Between the status line and the button bar you then have the bulk of your forms, so all of your user controls, your data entry controls and the like. But for today we're going to be looking at this menu. Now if I just open up Notepad for a moment, Notepad gives you an example of a classic Windows menu. So off File you've got New, Open, Save, Exit, and off Edit you've got Undo, Cut, Copy, Paste. Now you've also got a Help option which gives you access to help files. It also gives you some about information. So this normally gives you information about the application, so the name, who built it, the version, etc. The OpenInsight menu that comes when you create the form is fairly similar. You've got File and Edit and Help, and you've got a couple of other options in there, but they are slightly different. So we've got Read Row, Save Row, Clear Form. Slightly different, although they're doing the same sort of thing. And Edit, we don't have Undo, Cut, Copy, Paste, which we really ought to have under there, so we might look at tidying up those. Now in addition to the main menu at the top here, when you're in a form you also have what's called a context menu. So if I come down to date of birth here and I right mouse click, then I get a sub menu. The menu at the top normally gives you access to all of your application's functionality, or the vast majority of it. A context menu will give you menu items that are relevant to the control that you're in. So this particular one I could cut, copy, delete this particular text that I've selected, etc. Now in addition, if I haven't selected any text and I right mouse click, the cut and the copy are disabled because there's no text in there to select. However, I go to record number 1, no I don't want to save that, and I select London and I right mouse click, you'll now find that these are enabled. Come off them, they're disabled. Now this menu here is a standard menu that ships with OpenInsight. I haven't had to do any work at all to get this to work whatsoever, including the enabling and disabling. And that particular menu is created, and this is why we're in the User Interface Workspace. Under the Tools and Design Context menu there is a specific context menu builder window where I can select the form name and I can select a specific control that this context menu is going to be assigned to. Now what we're going to be doing today is a little bit different to this, and I may well come back to the context menu in a future lesson, because you need to set up a context menu for every single one of your controls on the forms. This takes quite some time. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to keep the OpenInsight and the Windows menu options enabled for us because it does a lot of the work. So let's just come out of there for the moment and we'll go back to our Forms Designer. Right, so let's have a look at creating our forms. So what we do is we go into the menu option, and we've got three options: Design, Edit and Quick Events, or Edit Events and Quick Events. If we go into the Design option, this will take us into the menu builder where we can see our accelerator keys, styles, event handlers, information about the actual menu, and also the menu structure. So you can see here that our top level is our file menu, and under that we've got these options: top level edit with options underneath. On view top level is view, and then first page, previous page. So we can see our menu, how it's built up very nicely within this builder. And what I want to do is make some changes. Now under the file menu we had read row. I don't particularly want this to be read row because in Notepad it was open. So what I'm going to do is just delete that out and replace that with open. Our ID name changes. This is the ID name that we would use if we wanted to refer to it within our code. And we might want to put some help text in here, so open record, something very simple. I could also include a bitmap if I want to, but I'm not going to. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. And we've also got our accelerator key, so Control and R within the form. If we were to do that, we could open the record, and to keep it compliant with Windows we're actually going to change that to Control and O. And I'm quite happy to leave all of the other events alone. And we can see down here the event handlers that when this menu option is selected we're going to send a read event to the window. So we're quite happy with that. Save row, again I don't really want to have save row, we're just going to have save. Quite straightforward, and we're quite happy with Control and S. Now the ampersand, I should say, by putting the ampersand in front of the S, in the application when somebody clicks the Alt key to turn on the little underscores in your menu, that's going to put an underscore underneath the S for the user. So the help text will just have save record, again quite easy, and we'll leave the bitmap alone. Clear form we're quite happy with, but we don't particularly want to have the ampersand in there, so we'll just leave that as clear form. I'm quite happy, and this will be clear the form. And delete row, let's just change that simply to delete, and we'll change the accelerator key to Control D, and this will be to delete this record. And finally close, we'll change that to be the same as Notepad as well, just to be consistent, and we'll change that to exit. However, in this instance I don't want an accelerator key, so let's turn that off. Right, I want to add a few options, and I can do that in a number of ways. Either I can go to the item below where I want to add it and then click the insert item before selection key, or what I can do is to select the item before I want to add this particular item and just hit the return key, and that's the way that I normally work. And in this particular instance I want this to be new, and my accelerator key is going to be N, so we'll change that to Control and N, and we've got our ampersand in there, and this will be create a new record. And then underneath the splitter beneath delete I want to add in page setup. I won't worry about any shortcut keys for that, and also we want to have print, and then we want to add in another splitter bar, and we'll just delete out that option there. We'll just go and put some help text in here. So help text is to set up a page for printing, and this one will be to print current record, and then exit out of the window. So once we're done, we'll file, exit and update, and we'll test run that particular form, and we'll see what our menu looks like.